My cheating wife said overtime was for our future. Now I'm dating a woman who makes her boss look poor. I find myself in a corner of the world where I have to play the long game, spending a whole year apart from my wife before the divorce paperwork can finally get the stamp of approval. And the best part? It doesn't even matter why we're parting ways in the eyes of the law. Just a year of separation, and then, poof, we're free as birds. Well, wouldn't you know it? I stumbled upon that little nugget of information completely by chance. After nearly 12 years of marriage, I can confidently say it was a pretty good gig for me. It was so wonderful that I figured we'd be swapping stories on rocking chairs in no time. She snagged a promotion at work, which meant she was now on the overtime express train. Next stop, exhaustion. Every evening, when she strolled in a bit later than usual, we would plop down together, and she'd regale me with the day's escapades, complete with the trials that had her pulling her hair out and the delightful twists that landed her in the overtime zone. It was so rich and coherent, you'd think it had been plucked straight from the pages of a novel. No way that was just a figment of someone's imagination. Oh, how mistaken I turned out to be. So, there I was, minding my own business, when I got a text from her saying she had to work late again. And wouldn't you know it, she had left her water bottle at home. Classic move, right? She had a knack for forgetting to hydrate, so I found myself playing the role of her personal hydration coach, reminding her to sip something every now and then. So, there I was, fresh off a long day at work, scrolling through my phone when I stumbled upon a text. Then, like a scene straight out of a quirky novel, I spotted her water bottle sitting there, all lonely and parched. Naturally, I thought, why not play the hero? And off I went to her workplace, ready to deliver a refreshing drink like some sort of beverage-bearing knight. But her car was a no-show at the office, and the entire building looked like it was playing hide-and-seek, dark and locked up tight. There were moments when her job had her rubbing elbows at the city council or attending meetings, so I whipped out my phone and shot her a text, inquiring about her whereabouts. She shot a text back, letting me know she was still stuck at the office, cranking out overtime for another 2 hours. Lucky her, right? I stumbled back home, my mind swirling in a delightful haze of confusion. I was trying to convince myself that the truth I already knew was just a figment of my imagination, but deep down, I knew better. It was like trying to ignore a stubborn stain on your favorite shirt. No matter how hard you scrub, it's still there, mocking you. I rang up my best buddy and spilled all the beans. He suggested I hop into a cold shower and just play it cool when she walked through the door, like nothing was amiss. Classic advice, right? Thanks to my friend, who played the role of a detective by tailing her not once but twice after work, and my own little foray into her phone, I managed to piece together quite the puzzle. Turns out, she had been juggling a secret romance with a co-worker that had been going on for at least a year, possibly even longer. Who knew office supplies could come with such complicated side stories? Throughout that entire period, I felt like I was on autopilot with her, only to be jolted awake by an unexpected stomach bug whenever she was in the mood for some action. Well, I went ahead and made my finger a little too friendly with my throat, also she could enjoy the delightful sound of me losing my lunch and spare me the interrogation. And then, well, let's just say things took a nosedive. A buddy who was my solid support during that time got into a car accident and found themselves in the hospital. Fortunately, it wasn't a matter of life or death, but it was certainly enough to keep him from showing up. I dropped by to see him daily, but other than that, it was just me, myself, and a whole lot of solitude. A few days later, I really messed things up. There I was, minding my own business at home, when her message popped up, another late night at work. Just my luck. The frustration really had me in a headlock, so I decided to embrace my inner mixologist and grabbed a bottle of vodka to take the edge off. Much to my astonishment, that particular day turned out to be the one when she strolled in right on schedule, cheerfully announcing that fortune smiled upon her and her work hours were cut shorter than she had anticipated. By that time, I had already taken a few enthusiastic sips of vodka. Just tipsy enough to loosen up, but not quite ready to start singing karaoke or confessing my deepest secrets. The mounting frustration, paired with a few too many drinks, finally pushed me over the edge. That's why I always advise anyone who hears about it to steer clear of alcohol and drugs. Trust me, it's for their own good. Well, they really have a knack for turning a minor hiccup into a full-blown circus act, don't they? I snatched the bottle, poured some vodka into my glass, shot her a glance, and casually inquired if she was dealing with that time of the month. I surprised her a bit when she went ahead and confirmed it. So, I casually mentioned that it's a real bummer her overtime wasn't exactly keen on getting cozy when she's dealing with that monthly visitor. As time went on, It became increasingly revolting to her. In that split second, caught in the glare of the headlights, she managed to stutter out a, "What?" That's when I completely lost my marbles. I stood up, and rather than raising my voice, I spoke in the tight-lipped way you do when you're trying not to let your teeth do the talking. I'm pretty sure he's not in the mood for romance when you're dealing with that kind of situation. It's just a speedy little favor and nothing more. I've devoured a mountain of their writings. I was more in the loop about their little escapade than I ever signed up for. Her eyes went as wide as saucers when I polished off my drink and sent the glass crashing to the ground. The expression on her face shifted from that classic deer in the headlights surprise to full-on fright, as if she'd just realized she was the main character in a horror story. With a swift pivot, she bolted in the opposite direction, as if the ground beneath her was suddenly made of hot coals. Beats me where she vanished too. Well, that's just not on my radar, is it? At first, I thought I'd have a chat with her when I was all set and could call the shots. I was curious about the series of events that nudged her into embarking on an affair while still being hitched to me. Why not just call it quits with me? Why not just go ahead and divorce me? But alcohol had other plans for me, it seems. That evening, having a chat with me was about as likely as finding a unicorn in your backyard. I probably would have just nodded along, pretending to care. I'm relieved she took off, but also a bit miffed that I didn't get to have that heart-to-heart I'd been gearing up for emotionally for weeks. The following day, I received a text from her stating that she didn't want to see me anymore because, well, I apparently gave her the heebie-jeebies. I told her it was all good on my end since I was just as eager to avoid her, what with the whole discuss thing going on. I shot her a text saying I'd pass along my lawyer's number, figured it was the best way to avoid any more awkward run-ins between us. And then, out of nowhere, the one thing happened that completely blindsided me. She shot me a text asking if that was truly what I wanted and whether I was ready to throw in the towel on trying again. So, after sending me a text declaring that she never wants to see me again because I apparently give her the heebie-jeebies, she turns around and asks if I'm really sure I don't want to see her again? Talk about a plot twist. At that moment, I was as bewildered as I was the day I decided to deliver a bottle of water to her office, thinking it was a grand romantic gesture instead of just a hydration mission gone awry. I haven't laid a finger on alcohol since that day. One of the smarter choices I've stumbled upon in this wild ride called life. Revise. So, here we are, 5 months down the road, and as I mentioned earlier, we're cruising toward Divorce City. Let's check in with the folks and see what pearls of wisdom they've got for us. Hey there. I just wanted to drop a quick note to see if there's any news. Thanks a bunch. The op chimes in, I doubt there'll be much to report. 5 months have rolled by since that little episode, and it looks like divorce is the final act in this drama. I'm fortunate to have a friend who's always there to lend an ear and share a laugh. You know, that's definitely a little nugget I should have tossed in there. Think of it as a little refresh, like a new coat of paint on an old fence. A week later, my friend finally made their grand exit from the hospital, like a celebrity leaving a red carpet event, minus the paparazzi, of course. The car had a little tete-a-tete with his vehicle, resulting in a broken arm and leg for him. Talk about a rough day on the road. I brought him over to my place, and along with his siblings, we rolled up our sleeves and got to work taking care of him. My wife had been trying to chat a bit more, but I had politely declined her invitations. The catch? The house was also in her name, so I couldn't exactly play the role of the gatekeeper and stop her from dropping by whenever she felt like it. But when she finally showed up, I found myself in the company of my buddy, and let's just say, she had zero interest in striking up a conversation with me while he was around. He decided to stick around for another 6 weeks, like a stubborn house guest who just can't take a hint. The next person chimes in, I'm really sorry for your loss, but hey, I'm thankful for your newfound freedom. I must admit, my drinking habits during my marriage were about as lively as a snail on a Sunday stroll. My ex gave it the old stink eye. He packed his bags and waltzed off to a swanky apartment an hour away in the city, leaving us to wonder if he'd traded his old life for a view of the skyline. My first lawyer promised to file a motion for me to claim residency of the marital home, but it turns out he was just practicing his skills in the art of procrastination instead. It seems my ex's lawyer was too busy sipping coffee to bother with the details. So my ex operated under this assumption. I let that assumption ride for months, only to finally set the record straight during mediation. Who knew it would take that long to clear the air? As a stay-at-home mom navigating the choppy waters of divorce, I found myself in need of a job. With just a couple of semesters of college under my belt, it turned out that serving and bartending were my golden tickets to making decent money without a degree. Who knew slinging drinks could be so lucrative? So I dove into the drinks I was whipping up and stumbled upon a whole universe filled with tales of history, artistry, and a sprinkle of extravagance. I've landed a gig at a fancy steakhouse in the posh town next door, and let me tell you, it's pretty fantastic. Who knew serving up prime cuts could be this much fun? They call me the Martini Mama, probably because my pouring skills could fill a swimming pool. My friends can't resist dropping by because I whip up themed drinks that showcase my not-so-hidden talents. Oh no, I really wish you hadn't had such a different experience than mine. Here's to luck being your new best friend and happiness lurking just a stone's throw away, ready to jump out and surprise you. Oh, and by the way, she wasn't even a little bit scared of you. She felt a twinge of embarrassment over her actions and was doing her best to avoid the inevitable showdown with her own consequences. The original poster chimes in with a cheerful, "Thanks a bunch. I believe what you just said is spot on." Alcohol is like that friend who shows up at the party and instantly makes everything more interesting, especially when you're in the mood to experiment or just have a good time. But you know, when you're feeling all over the place like I was, a little liquid courage just turns the emotional roller coaster into a full-blown theme park ride. I'm really happy to hear you've navigated your way ahead and that you're having a blast with what you're up to. Well, you might have had a point about her feeling a bit embarrassed. Perhaps it was a delightful mix of both. That evening, I was a bit off my rocker and did some things that, in hindsight, probably weren't my finest moments. Being on the taller side, I figured that when it came time to confront her, my best bet was to stay seated. After all, I didn't want to come off as some sort of looming giant ready to pounce. Well, I went ahead and did the complete opposite of that. I didn't mean to come off like a walking warning sign, that's not the vibe I was going for at all. Just one more thing to add. Absolutely, I'm on the same page. When I discovered the news, I made a slight adjustment to my drinking habits, going from 3 drinks a week to 3 drinks a day, just for a little while, you know. Cheers to that. It turned me into a bit of a porcupine, always ready to poke at my husband instead of cuddling up. As I continued my search for the truth, I couldn't help but toss in a few quips about other women, affairs, and the charmingly chaotic world of cheaters. And it made him a bit jumpy, convinced I was in on the whole thing. He went on a deleting spree, erasing every scrap of evidence and digital breadcrumb he could conjure up, turning my sleuthing efforts into a real-life game of hide-and-seek, except I was the only one seeking, and he was winning by a landslide. Once he finally spilled the beans, I just kept pouring myself another drink. It had me bombarding him with questions like a curious toddler on a sugar high. Well, let me tell you, stumbling upon some graphic sexual details was like accidentally walking into a surprise party where the surprise is just way too much information. I really didn't sign up for that kind of knowledge, and honestly, I should have kept my curiosity in check. If only I hadn't thought that a bottle could be my best buddy in tough times. The op chimed in, "I like to think of mistakes as my personal teachers, always ready to give me a lesson, whether I asked for it or not." Well, let me tell you, reaching for that bottle on that fateful day was about as wise as trying to teach a cat to fetch. What I'm trying to say is that once you've learned from your blunder, it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to the business of forgiving yourself for that little hiccup. I trust you've managed to get that done by now. I'm sending you a mountain of hugs and a hefty dose of strength, like a warm blanket on a chilly day. It's pretty astonishing how some folks can stroll around like everything's just peachy while juggling a whole other life behind the scenes. How is it possible to look someone in the eye day after day and act like everything's just peachy? And then she texts you afterward, playing the part of the bewildered detective? Oh, really now? Oh, she was fully aware of her game plan. Some folks really struggle to grasp that actions come with consequences, particularly when they've been skating by without a care in the world. What's the most glaring red flag you brushed aside because you put your faith in someone a bit too much? Drop us a line in the comments below. Next up, there are moments when doing the right thing seems like trying to find a needle in a haystack, while blindfolded, no less. Am I the villain for not inviting my ex-husband, who's battling cancer, to crash at my place during his treatment? For the majority of our marriage, my husband, 39, and I, 37, enjoyed a blissfully happy relationship. We had solid jobs, enough cash to keep the fridge stocked, 2 little whirlwinds running around, and a love that could make even the grumpiest cat smile. Then, out of the blue, he got hit with a rare form of cancer, and we found ourselves navigating the wild roller coaster of treatments and recovery together for what felt like an eternity. We packed our bags and settled into a cozy little house, just a stone's throw away from the research center where he was getting his treatment. His folks chipped in half of the down payment for the house, while the rest came from our own little treasure trove of savings and investments. In the divorce, he handed me the house like it was a trophy and decided to take all of his medical debt with him, as if it were a parting gift. What a guy. It's been a year since we called it quits, but wouldn't you know it, his cancer decided to make a comeback, and now he's back at the same research hospital for treatment. Life really knows how to keep things interesting, doesn't it? So, here's the deal, he wants to crash at my place while he's getting treatment, and his parents think it's only fair that I play the role of caretaker. Why? Because he was such a stand-up guy, he let me have the house without claiming his slice of the equity pie. It's like I'm suddenly the host of a very awkward reality show. Back when we were hitched and he was going through treatment, it was all this fancy, pricey stuff that really took a toll on him, both in the wallet and on his energy levels. We hit the jackpot with jobs that were both understanding and flexible, but with his health hiccups, the little ones running around, and the bills piling up, we had to trim our lifestyle down quite a bit. The combination of that and the physical changes happening to his body really put him in a funk. Every time he started feeling a tad better, he'd pack his bags and head back to his hometown, like a boomerang that just couldn't resist the pull of familiarity. In this quaint little town, you'll find most of his family and a good chunk of his childhood pals still hanging around, probably reminiscing about the days when life was a bit simpler and the biggest drama was who got the last slice of pizza. There I was, juggling the role of caretaker like a circus performer, all while wrestling with the insurance paperwork that seemed to have a mind of its own. There I was, juggling the kids, running the whole household, and tackling my full-time job like a circus performer on a unicycle, without a net. We had a bit of a village rallying around us, but let me tell you, it was no walk in the park. I wasn't exactly thrilled about him frolicking away during his sunny, carefree days, but hey, it was good for his mental health, so who was I to throw a wrench in that plan? During his time there, he found himself back in touch with his high school sweetheart. A couple of years back, he let it slip that he was sharing a bed with her, and just like that, I was off to file for divorce. By that time, he was as fit as a fiddle, having kicked cancer to the curb. There were other bits and pieces about the cheating that really knocked the wind out of me and left me feeling like I'd just been handed a bad plot twist in a novel. Handing me the house while he took on all the debt was his way of saying sorry, I suppose. His parents think I should be doing him a solid for snagging the house and let him crash there for a couple of months while he's at the treatment center. You know, just a little family favor, right? I genuinely want him to be okay, and I certainly don't want my kids to miss out on having a loving dad. But let's be real, I'm not exactly thrilled at the idea of turning back into his personal nurse and caretaker. That's a hard pass for me. I'm still nursing a grudge about how our marriage wrapped up. It seems like everyone in my circle has suddenly become a parenting expert, insisting that I should back him for the kids' sake. Because, you know, nothing says great parenting like taking advice from the peanut gallery. Am I the villain here if I just say I can't swing that? How about we gather some insightful thoughts from the original poster, huh? They decided to share their engagement news on the very same day the divorce was wrapped up. Talk about timing. Ouch, that one still stings like a bee with a vendetta. I'm still wrestling with this quite a bit. I wouldn't say I hate him, not really. A piece of my heart still holds a fondness for him, like an old buddy who's been around for too long to shake off completely. I can't imagine putting my kids through the heartache of losing their dad. That's a plot twist I'd rather avoid. He adores them, and they return the affection in spades. From my vantage point, it's clear as day what he was experiencing, falling head over heels for someone new, like a character in a romantic comedy who just can't catch a break. In the midst of his illness, I found myself in a rather unglamorous role, often playing the part of a reluctant janitor, tidying up after his unfortunate bouts of vomiting and the occasional, shall we say, unexpected bathroom mishap. In a classic case of trying to be the hero, I ended up pulling muscles and injuring myself while lending a hand with his move. Who knew boxes could be so treacherous? He thought that was a bit of a blow to his pride, so I get why he'd be drawn to the idea that someone still viewed him as the robust version of himself from back in the day, while I took on the role of the caring nurse. So I remind myself of that, and surprisingly, I don't harbor any ill will towards him. Well, I found myself in a bit of a dry spell for years, all because he was under the weather. Turns out, losing your libido can be a surprise bonus feature of medication, who knew? Just when you think you're getting a handle on things, life throws a curveball that leaves you scratching your head. I saw that coming and decided to embrace my life of celibacy with open arms. It's a bit of a pickle, really. I mean, here I am, feeling all sorts of guilty for expressing how tough it was, when I should be doing a happy dance that he made it through. It seems a tad ridiculous to even complain when you think about the bigger picture, doesn't it? However, I would engage in some private self-exploration, away from prying eyes. I skipped getting a vibrator because I didn't want him to feel like he was missing the mark or anything. Just trying to keep the vibes good, you know? All this time, I was just getting by, convinced he had it all together. He was tucked in with someone else entirely. And that betrayal still brings a tear to my eye. Alright, let's dive into the wisdom of our commenter, shall we? Let's be real, even if we toss the cheating drama out the window, being a caretaker is like signing up for a full-time gig that comes with a side of emotional roller coaster, mental gymnastics, and physical exhaustion. It's a lot, folks. Well, it turns out you're no longer playing the role of his wife in this little drama of life. You're not tied to any duty here, my friend. The op chimes in, well, the last time I did it, it was all in the name of love. Right now, it's just not in the cards for me. It was quite the challenge. The silver lining of my divorce? Well, it was the sweet relief of no longer having to navigate that circus of chaos. Taking care of a sick person is no walk in the park, but throw in the insurance red tape and the juggling act of medical contacts and treatment details, and you've got yourself a logistical circus that would make even the most seasoned ringmaster break a sweat. One commenter suggests, how about for the kid's sake, you let him stick around? But hey, he or his folks could chip in for a nurse or aide to help him out. While you're under no obligation to lend a hand, your kids are savvy enough to pick up on the fact that he's not feeling well. If you decide to sit this one out, it might just put a bit of a strain on your relationship with them. Kids can be surprisingly perceptive, you know. If not now, then later, especially if something goes awry and he kicks the bucket. If you don't lend a hand, I can already hear the whispers about how you could have at least let him stick around. It's like a game of hot potato, and nobody wants to be the one left holding it when the music stops. The op responds, I hadn't quite wrapped my head around that yet, but you make a good point. I need to gauge how my little ones will respond to this situation. I haven't broken the news to him yet that he's feeling under the weather again. Back in the day, they were just tiny tots, blissfully unaware of the details, only grasping that dad was under the weather, and then, poof, he was back on his feet again. Well, it seems my oldest has reached that age where they can grasp the concept of cancer and all the heavy stuff that comes with it. Since we parted ways, my ex has taken on the role of the fun Disney dad, complete with all the charm and none of the responsibilities. They absolutely can't get enough of him. One commenter quipped that the likelihood of his parents not knowing their son was sneaking in late after a cozy night with his high school sweetheart is about as high as a cat flying a plane. The op chimes in, oh, they were well aware and totally had his back. They were always kind to me, so it wasn't as if they were plotting to unravel my marriage. They just wanted to support whatever brought him joy, especially after he beat cancer. It seems like he's getting a few raised eyebrows from those who are in the know about our little adventure. My ex-in-laws really went all out with the damage control, posting sappy social media tributes about how the girlfriend was always his personal cheerleader, making him laugh as kids and swooping in to save the day during tough times. You'd think she was a superhero or something. As if her stand-up routine was the secret ingredient in his cancer treatment. I was basically the invisible maid nanny sidekick, the kind of character you could easily overlook in a bustling scene. Apologies, but I find myself stuck in a loop, replaying the same old grievances like a broken record. As for the in-laws, well, they happen to be the grandparents of my kids. The sole set of doting grandparents my kids are lucky enough to have. They absolutely adore my kids, going the extra mile, literally, just to hang out with them and whisk them off on little adventures. I might have my gripes with them, but I can't deny they're pretty decent grandparents. The final judgment? Not the villain in this story. For years, you poured your heart and soul into caring for your husband, giving up your time, energy, body, career advancement, and even a bit of your sanity, all while navigating the toughest chapter of your lives together. You were right there when he was at his most exposed, like a cat in a bathtub. And just when he was starting to feel like his old self again, he went and picked someone else. Classic, right? So, let me get this straight, you've got a roof over your head, one you worked hard for, mind you, and now you're supposed to don the nurse's cap again? Really? What's next, a cape for superhero duties? From a place of appreciation? Absolutely not. Update 1, April 3, 2023. Buckle up, folks. It was the Sunday following my little adventure with MIL. Wouldn't you know it? My ex-in-laws swooped in like superheroes to whisk the kids away for a grand adventure at the zoo. A real family affair, minus the family part for me. They occasionally swing by to scoop them up for some fun, so I didn't think much of it. A few hours later, my mother-in-law, looking like she'd just watched a sad movie on repeat, delivered two wailing kids right to my doorstep. She informed them that their dad was under the weather and might just kick the bucket if he didn't stick around and make a trip to the hospital. We hadn't quite gotten around to having the chat with the kids about the diagnosis, so imagine our surprise when she casually dropped the bombshell that he's got cancer and, well, it's not looking good. He's not on the brink of the great beyond, it's just a rough patch with some treatment, but he'll bounce back like a champ. I was so mad, I could have powered a small city with my anger. I picked up the phone and gave my ex a piece of my mind, complete with the side of sass. He was just as surprised, and together we let loose on his mom like a couple of fireworks on the 4th of July. She fell apart, tears streaming down her face, pleading with me not to take her grandkids away, as if I'd suddenly forget everything that had just happened. So, my ex and I had a little chat with the kids, him on video, of course. We reassured them that, yes, he's under the weather, but don't worry, he'll bounce back like a rubber ball. All he has to do is waltz into the hospital, and they'll work their magic on him just like they did the last time he was under the weather. Once the dust settled, the kids calmed down, but my oldest has been on a tear, crying and pleading for Dad to come live with us. It's like a soap opera around here. I told them I'd have a chat with Dad and see if we can crack the code on what to do next. I had to choke down a mountain of bile just to ask him what on earth he thought he was doing. We had ourselves quite the lengthy and thorough chat. So, here's the scoop, he's strapped for cash. Sure, he's got a job that pays the bills, but his credit score is in the basement, he's drowning in debt, and in a moment of questionable judgment, he opted for the bargain bin insurance that barely does the trick. My fiancée is in a bit of a pickle too, she's not exactly rolling in dough. So, he's in desperate need of a roof over his head because, let's be honest, his wallet is as empty as a politician's promise. His parents are chipping in for some of his medical bills, but let's just say their budget is feeling a bit like a pair of old jeans, stretched to the limit. He was doing just fine with his finances when we parted ways, so I'm left scratching my head about what could have gone so sideways in such a blink of an eye. So, guess what? My ex and his new girlfriend have decided to make themselves at home in my daughter's room. Isn't that just peachy? My daughter cheerfully handed it over to her dad and is now bunking with her little brother in his room. The kids are absolutely thrilled to have their dad back home, and you can practically see the joy radiating off them like a couple of little suns. My daughter has taken on the role of his personal watchdog, popping in every few minutes to ensure he's still breathing and not plotting any mischief. My mother-in-law managed to give my kid a dose of trauma that I'm pretty sure will be a family legend for years to come. Forgiveness? That's a tall order for this particular episode. I let the girlfriend move in with him because, honestly, I was too mad to give a hoot about who was keeping an eye on him. As long as it wasn't me, I was all for it. Having her in my home felt like a test of my sanity, but oddly enough, it seems to be more of a struggle for her than for me. And you know what? That little twist makes it all a bit easier to handle. She's got a permanent waterworks situation going on, tears flowing like a leaky faucet. It's just been 3 days, but I'm already ready to give her a good shake and say, come on, get it together. The plan for treatment is set to last 3 months, like a miniseries you didn't know you signed up for. I'm ticking off the days like a kid waiting for Christmas morning. I really appreciate all the wonderful folks who shared their wise words on my last post. You all are the best. I never saw this coming, but it seems they pulled a fast one by getting to my kids. Classic move, right? I'll gradually wrangle myself and the kids away from the movie, but for now, I've got to tackle this for the little one's sake. Just a little update, I was attempting to get this out over a week ago, but life had other plans. On a brighter note, the ex's treatment is progressing quite well. The tumors that decided to make a comeback are now much smaller than their previous versions, and the new treatment he's getting is more targeted, so he's not experiencing as many of those pesky side effects he had last time around. I had sworn up and down that I would keep my distance from both my ex and his fiancée, but wouldn't you know it, I found myself knee-deep in insurance paperwork, playing the reluctant hero. His fiancée has the charm of a soggy spaghetti and seems to have a permanent supply of tears on hand. It was a whole lot simpler for me to just get it done than to watch her wrestle with it. My ex is still polite, but it seems like he's swapped out his old personality for a new model, one that's a bit less charming and a lot more puzzling. He's turned into quite the character, and let's just say his charm has taken a vacation when it comes to his fiancée. Well, color me surprised, but here I am, feeling a twinge of sympathy for her. Here are a couple of comments that might just hit the mark. The commenter playfully nudges Op to unleash a bit of mischief and offers a delightful array of suggestions to consider. 3. See if the girlfriend can take care of the kids for a day when your ex is off the hook. So, strut out on that date like you just won the lottery, because who doesn't love a little glam on a night out? If you're flying solo in the dating world, that's your little secret. No need to spill the beans. Why not grab your girlfriends and hit the town? It's time for some fun. If you decide to go out on a date, you might want to consider not returning home that night. The op chimes in, I've tackled number 3 twice already. Since the divorce, I've been on a dating hiatus. Think of it as a self-imposed sabbatical from the romantic chaos. I'd love to dive into online dating, but let's be honest, it's a bit terrifying. Plus, my social life is pretty much a family affair, starring my kids as the main characters. I'm putting on a show of having plans just to justify being dressed and out, all in the name of feeling good about myself. I decided against leaving the kids in their capable hands, thank you very much. I pulled off a little magic trick and set up sleepovers for the kids with their pals on those nights. It's been quite the delightful surprise to see just how much love and support my kids and I are getting from our neighbors and friends. Who knew we were so popular? It's like we're the stars of our own little sitcom over here. I spilled the beans to a handful of my closest pals, and it seems like the grapevine has done its thing. Most folks are in the loop now. I've been inundated with offers to lend a hand. Humans have a knack for kindness, don't they? So, guess what? We scored an invite to a camping trip over Easter weekend, and I'm wrangling the kids for the adventure. My ex-mother-in-law was hinting at having the kids over, but I quickly put the kibosh on that idea. One more person chimes in, calling you a saint. To which the op responds, nope, definitely not a saint. I'm just out here trying to keep my kids safe and my sanity intact, one day at a time. I'm juggling a million things and sticking to my to-do list like a pro. I'm putting in the effort to steer clear of certain things because, let's be honest, that path leads straight to misery town. I know it sounds a bit small of me, but I can't help but feel a little better knowing they're not exactly hitting the jackpot right now. The next comment suggests checking out those dating events that companies put together. Who knows, it might just be the ticket to finding that special someone, or at least a good story to tell later. There could be a more effortless way to dip your toes back into the dating pool when you're feeling up to it, rather than diving headfirst into dating sites. I've never dipped my toes into the online dating pool, but a friend of mine just tied the knot with her husband, whom she met at a baking class for singles. Talk about mixing love with flour, right? Take a gander at what's happening around you. The op chimes in, looks like I should check out some dating events. Well, color me surprised. Who knew that was even on the menu? I'm on the hunt for a step-by-step guide to navigate the wild world of selling my house. Any tips would be greatly appreciated. I've begun the adventure of selling my place and diving into the world of potential new homes, but let me tell you, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, if the haystack were also on fire and full of squirrels. My wallet is tighter than a drum, so putting the house on the market while I'm off gallivanting elsewhere is a no-go, especially if it drags on for more than 2 months. Who has that kind of cash to burn? I can't say I feel all that comfortable letting strangers waltz through my home while my kids and I are still in the mix. The other thing is, I don't have a tight-knit family to lean on, but in this neighborhood, I've managed to create a fantastic support network with my neighbors and friends. It's like my own little village, minus the thatched roofs and farm animals, though I wouldn't mind a goat or two for comic relief. Letting go of the familiar and diving into the unknown with 2 tiny humans in hand is like trying to juggle flaming swords while riding a unicycle, daunting, to say the least. I'm on a quest to determine which option takes the cake for being the bigger con. Another commenter suggests, how about sitting down with your husband and kids to explain that the contract is a one-time offer? Sounds like a family meeting in the making. Once these 3 months wrap up, it's time to roll up those sleeves and start stashing away some cash and plotting the course for any future care needs. The original poster chimed in, mentioning they had a chat with their ex about it before he made the big move here. He promised himself, with a chuckle, that he'd never go down that road again. With my daughter, I think I'll hold off on that chat until she's a little less wigged out about the whole dad not living forever thing. So there you are, wedged into a tight spot, expertly maneuvered by your kids, caught off guard by your ex-mother-in-law, and now sharing a roof with the very woman who swooped in and took your place. And yet, here you are, still on your feet. Well, that's quite the feat, isn't it? Here comes the second update, folks. Here's yet another twist in the saga of my ex-husband's extended stay at my place. On the 20th of May, in the year 2023. Well, my ex and his fiancée decided today was the day to pack up and leave. Guess they finally found a place where they can argue about the dishes without me around. This time, his treatments were a walk in the park, smooth sailing all the way. He was feeling a bit weak and nauseous, but thankfully, there was no repeat of the previous episode involving the dramatic exits of both food and fluids. It's pretty wild how medicine keeps evolving and shaking things up, isn't it? He's going to need his monthly shots for a bit, and I've graciously volunteered to host him for a weekend next month. But after that, he's flying solo. The stay was a breeze, like a well-written chapter in a novel where everything just clicks into place. Honestly, there was no drama to speak of. I found plenty to keep myself occupied, and the kids and I hit the road quite a bit. They handled the rest of the things just fine, and everything fell into place like a well-rehearsed dance routine. My kids are back to their usual antics, and let me tell you, the joy in their eyes is as bright as a freshly polished apple. Normalcy has returned, and I can almost hear the collective sigh of relief from the toys that were gathering dust in the corner. I had a chat with my daughter about how Grandma has a knack for embellishing stories to get her way, and we both agreed that it's not quite the best approach. Thankfully, she got it. She couldn't care less about visiting her grandparents, and honestly, I'm quite relieved by that. During the final week of his stay, his fiancée decided to head back to their town to handle a few things, confident that he could manage just fine on his own. After all, what could possibly go wrong? Right? We had ourselves a couple of lengthy chats that could rival a good novel. They had a way of being both a breath of fresh air and a punch to the gut, all wrapped up in one messy package. It seems I've finally turned the page, and surprisingly, the bitterness has packed its bags and left the building. Who knew closure could feel this light and breezy? I might whip up another post about what he shared with me, complete with his reasoning and justifications. Stay tuned for the next episode of As the Plot Thickens. On a brighter note, all that fussing over outfits and hitting the town has actually paid off for me. I crossed paths with someone. So, we've had 2 dates, and let me tell you, it's been a blast so far. This is my first foray into the dating world post-divorce, and while I'm trying to keep my expectations in check, I can't help but feel a flutter of excitement. It's like stepping onto a roller coaster after years of riding the merry-go-round, thrilling and a bit dizzying, but oh so much fun. Here we go with Update 3. Chatting with my former spouse. June 1, 2023. I attempted to put our chat into words, but let me tell you, the whole thinking and analyzing bit felt like trying to find a silver lining in a rain cloud. Quite the downer, really. When we had that chat, I felt like $1,000,000, but now, well, let's just say hindsight isn't always 20/20, it's more like a funhouse mirror. So, my latest date decided to whisk me away on a little adventure for Memorial Day weekend. One of my good neighbor pals nudged me to head out while she kept an eye on the little ones. I was absolutely buzzing about this vacation. After more than 10 years, I finally embarked on my first vacation meant solely for adults. I decided to hit the pause button on my overthinking about my ex, because who wants a side of depression with their vacation? Not me. The trip was a breeze, and I'm feeling pretty hopeful about this new romance. Who knew love could be so easy? Hey folks, sorry for the delay. Now that I'm feeling a bit brighter, I can finally tackle my ex's opinions with a more down-to-earth perspective. At the outset, he was once more overflowing with apologies, lamenting the ordeal he had put me through and insisting that I deserved far better from him. During his cancer treatment, while we were still hitched, I made it my mission to tread lightly around his feelings, channeling my inner Zen master and practicing the art of patience like it was an Olympic sport. It had turned into such a routine that when he finally confessed to his affair, I still handled him like a fragile egg, tiptoeing around the whole situation. I stood my ground on the divorce front, resolute as a cat refusing to budge from a sunny spot, despite his relentless attempts to play the peacemaker. I managed to keep my cool, though, and didn't unleash my inner volcano on him. But this time, I finally got to let loose all my hurt and anger at him, and let me tell you, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Cathartic doesn't even begin to cover it. He handled it pretty well overall, but you could see the sting in his eyes, and he definitely put up his defenses like a knight ready for battle. He shared a little story about how he and his girlfriend ended up as a couple. She was the girl he dated back in high school. She had a rough start, coming from a background that could make anyone's hair stand on end. But in high school, he swooped in like a superhero, offering encouragement and a nudge to help her escape that mess. When he packed his bags and headed off to university while she remained in their cozy little town, the long-distance romance quickly turned into a distant memory. He was craving that big city buzz, and a few years post-college, he stumbled upon me. During his recovery, as he spent more time at his parents' place, he found himself reconnecting with her. Back then, She was trying to find her way out of a relationship that felt more like a bad sitcom than a love story. It was just like those high school days again, where she found herself in a pickle and he swooped in like a knight in shining armor, minus the horse, of course. I guess I might have a certain charm for those who've been wrestling with their own frailties and the big question of life and death. When he was home, I was practically his personal butler, catering to his every whim. I had no idea he had enough energy to juggle all the legwork for his other woman while also shelling out quite a bit to keep her happy. Talk about multitasking. That's the source of his current financial woes. She found herself in a bit of a pickle with her finances, and he swooped in like a superhero to save the day, fixing all her woes with a flourish. He's really puffed up about how much he helped her, and he just can't see my point that he's taken something from me. It's like I'm the one doing all the heavy lifting while he's off saving the world, leaving our family in the dust. It's not that I'm against lending a hand to someone trying to break free from a tough situation, but I can't shake this nagging feeling of being taken for a ride. He said he was doing me a favor by hanging out in his town, claiming it took some of the weight off my shoulders. How generous of him, right? It's a fact that once he left, life became a whole lot simpler, like finding an extra fry at the bottom of the bag. If only I had a bit more time on my hands, I could probably write a novel or at least finish the crossword puzzle from last week. I could really dive into the delightful chaos of my kids' lives. We could whip up any dish and devour anything on our plates, but if he had that kind of energy, he could have lent me a hand, you know? Well, he claims I was just a bundle of nerves and frowns all the time. My attitude was like a leaky faucet, just dripping negativity all over him. I can't help but feel a bit miffed, especially since I recall tiptoeing around him like he was a fragile piece of art. How readily I bent over backwards to play the role of his nurse. He reminisced about that time. I was so worked up that I took a little trip to the balcony for a good old-fashioned scream fest. Oh, he was as serious as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I may have my quirks, but I really put in the effort and gave it my all. I had no idea that my help and support were falling short of his expectations. I didn't exactly boost his spirits, did I? I just tackled the grunt work. It seems like he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, probably because he thinks he's in my debt. He's quite fond of his girlfriend, mainly because she's got a bit of a debt to him and leans on him like a crutch at a three-legged race. Alright, let's gather some comments that actually matter. What on earth made him believe he could possibly defend what he did? The op chimes in, claiming he's quite the decent fellow. He brushes off the cheating like it's just a minor hiccup that happened a few times while he was busy playing the knight in shining armor for his girlfriend. Meanwhile, I'm the stubborn one for not wanting to just sweep it under the rug and pretend everything's peachy. The original poster is on the quest for closure. It was like a warm hug of finality, getting to spill my thoughts to him. Looking back, it seems he really thought I'd see him as the hero of the story just because he laid out all his reasons like a well-prepared script. He was about as frustrated as a cat trying to catch its own tail when I wouldn't. I'm quite fond of the fellow I'm dating. For the first time in ages, I found myself in the delightful position of being with someone who took charge of planning and executing a trip, leaving me with the simple task of just enjoying the ride. It's funny how much you can value something when it's been a while since you've had it, isn't it? Fresh off the press. Update number 4, folks. I mentioned my new boyfriend to my ex, and let's just say his face went from charming to what happened? In record time. September 6, 2023. This past weekend, I decided it was time to let my boyfriend meet my kids. Spoiler alert, it was an adventure. We've been hanging out a lot and chatting nearly every day, and I finally felt it was time to let him join the party. I let my ex know that I'm diving back into the dating pool and will be bringing the new guy around the kids. Just thought it was only fair to give a little heads up, you know? He suddenly went all hush-hush on the phone and then started fishing for details about who he is and all that jazz. So, I handed this over to him. He really put in the effort to talk me out of introducing the kids to my boyfriend. Claims it's a bit premature and not exactly the best for the little ones, you know, all that jazz. As if I had the luxury of making that decision when he decided to introduce his girlfriend into my kids' lives. Well, I wrapped up the call feeling a bit miffed. Last night, he rang me up to chat about my boyfriend. It seems he did a bit of digging, which honestly leaves me a bit in the dark. Well, it's hard to find fault when there's not much to work with, isn't it? So he casually inquired if I was with my boyfriend for the financial perks. Can you believe that? Let's just say my temper was hotter than a jalapeno in a sauna. My boyfriend's got a pretty sweet gig, raking in the dough, and he might just be a few tax brackets ahead of me, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It's like trying to guess how many jelly beans are in a jar, there's a lot of mystery involved. I haven't had the money chat with him yet, but I manage just fine on my own. I've been holding it down for myself, my kids, and even my not-so-great ex. And this is what he comes to me with? I shot back, nope, I'm not with him for his cash. I'm with him because my ex-husband decided to take a hike after he had his fill of my generosity. He got a bit riled up about it and claimed I have a barbed tongue. Apparently, folks see me as all sweetness and light, but they don't realize I can dish out some verbal jabs when the mood strikes. Well, isn't that just lovely? After everything I've done for him, you'd think he'd at least consider being nice. But no, he seems to have a talent for being cruel, and he keeps showing it off like it's some kind of twisted hobby. Here we go with update 5. Life is as calm as a cat napping in a sunbeam. February 18, 2024. I've gotten a handful of messages asking for updates, but it's been as quiet as a library on a Sunday, so there's nothing new to report. Things in my relationship are cruising along quite nicely. We're in the process of crafting a blended family, like mixing the perfect ingredients for a delightful recipe, just with a bit more chaos and a lot more love. My 2 kids and his son are like peas in a pod, thick as thieves, and having a blast together. We've been tossing around the idea of buying a house together and putting mine on the market. Who knew adulting could be so complicated? I'm feeling a delightful mix of excitement and nerves about diving into that adventure. My ex decided to take a break from the drama after our last little spat. He's been acting a bit more distant lately, but honestly, that's just fine by me. Less drama, more peace. As far as I can tell, everything's peachy on his end too. Here we are with the 6th installment of our thrilling saga. The house has officially changed hands. I've turned the page. September 6, 2024. So, my boyfriend and I took the plunge and snagged ourselves a new pad. Who knew adulting could be this exciting? I've sold the house, and I must say, it's a bit of a weight off my shoulders to bid that place adieu. I enjoyed having a home, but let's just say it's a bit cluttered with bad memories and the emotional baggage of my ex-in-laws, who seem to think they still have a VIP pass to the place. I have to admit, I'll miss my old neighborhood. It was like a quirky character in my life story, always full of surprises and a bit of chaos, but in the best way possible. I was lucky to have a bunch of friends cheering me on from the sidelines. My kids are absolutely thrilled with the new digs. It's got more space, a yard that could host a small soccer match, and schools that actually make you feel like you're investing in your kids' future instead of just hoping for the best. While we were tackling the great house cleanout, I casually suggested to my ex that he might want to gather a few of his stray belongings still hanging around. He had a handful of boxes filled with pictures, kids' artwork, and a few knickknacks, so I stashed them in the garage for him to swing by and grab later. He showed up to collect them and ended up weeping like a character in a tear-jerking novel, lost in a sea of memories. We just sort of existed in the same space, like 2 ships passing in the night, without so much as a nod or a wave. I handed him some water and stepped back to let him chill out, but I have to admit, his wailing really got my blood boiling. I figured I had moved on, left the past in the rearview mirror, and was cruising happily through life. But then, out of nowhere, a wave of anger hit me like a rogue wave at the beach, and I realized I'm still not completely over what he did. Talk about a plot twist, right? So, his engagement has hit the skids, and I can't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him. Life really knows how to throw a curveball, doesn't it? Well, they had their hearts set on a July wedding, but as fate would have it, that plan went belly up. So, I got the scoop from a couple of our mutual pals that she's gone and moved back in with her not-so-charming ex. Classic plot twist, right? They've got kids in the mix, and let me tell you, her family is really pushing for a reunion, because nothing says happy family like a little pressure from the folks, right? Oh, and did I mention her family has a bit of an abusive streak? Just a typical day in the life, I suppose. Back in the day, my ex swooped in like a knight in shining armor to help her out when they were just getting to know each other. Ever since, it's been like a sitcom where they keep throwing that favor back in his face, and let me tell you, the drama is real. So, she stuck around with her ex while he was helping her climb out of her financial mess, and now that she's finally on solid ground, she decides to waltz back to the very guy who dug that hole in the first place. Classic, right? In a roundabout way, my ex and I played a part in helping some slacker out there save a pretty penny or two. In that moment, I find myself feeling a bit miffed for my ex, as if I'm channeling their frustration like a quirky sidekick in a novel. Well, I've got my reasons for disliking him, but let's be honest, he did make an effort to help his old pal and high school crush, only for her to throw him under the bus. Classic, right? You've been the one doing all the heavy lifting, cheering on the kids, and forging ahead to create a brighter future. That's the real deal. His tears might flow like a river, but they won't wash away the hurt he stirred up or the times he dropped the ball on you. You've earned the right to strut a little, celebrating your journey, rather than dragging around the heavy baggage of guilt or pity for someone who just couldn't get it together. It's great to hear that you're finally catching some joy in your life. A fresh start with a new home, a budding romance, and your little one flourishing. Sounds like a recipe for a sitcom, doesn't it? Just keep your eyes on the prize, my friend. Everything else is just background chatter. Ever find yourself wrestling with the idea of feeling sorry for someone who's done you wrong? It's like trying to hug a cactus, painful and a bit prickly. We'd love to hear your tales, so drop them in the comments below. Thanks a bunch for hopping on board with us today in our little corner of the universe. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss our next video, trust me, it's going to be a good one. Catch you later, alligator.